Good evening. I know that we're expecting more rain this evening. I haven't heard back from anybody else who may not be making it, but got a minute before we turn into pumpkins here, so give it a second. There's Maureen. Good evening. We can actually probably start the meeting here. And like I said, I'm not sure who else may be attending. Can everybody can hear me, right? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. There's Gwen. Yeah, so we're good to go. Okay. I'm going to officially call the meeting to order and welcome everybody to the meeting in December. Time flies very quickly, apparently. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes for November 6th? Any motions?
Was I here that day?
You, what, beg your pardon?
Was I here? Was I present on that date?
You were present on that day. You, Ray, me, Dick, and Nora were all there. It was a memorable meeting. So I had a, yep, thank you. I had a, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. So I'm assuming nobody had any comments. No. Okay. Kind of going backwards here. Okay. Communications and announcements. I do have a few, but I'd open up to the floor if anybody had anything they wanted to speak to before I go on with the few that I have. Anybody? No? Okay. So I just want to follow up with a few things from the last meeting that I said I would talk with a bunch of people, and one of them I did get some communication with Jeff Silversmith, but I'll leave that for our old business concerning the POCD and the IID zone updates. But I did circle back with Bill Folletti before he did leave office about the grants. Our kind of our consensus of a proposal that our town of future would be willing to take the lead to kind of offer to kind of go out and do an RFQ or RFP for request for qualifications, request for proposals for someone to do grants for the town, because obviously we've lost out on a few grants and town doesn't have the staff, and the staff to do sometimes just don't have the time, and some grants, quite frankly, require some outside professional assistance anyhow. Town's going to actually go for them, and they do take time. So he was receptive to it, but obviously, his chapter was closing on his term, so he was going to defer that to Catherine, but he did offer his support for the idea. I did then reach out to Catherine and have a couple things that she was receptive of it, and it's actually one of the things that's on her list of things that she wants to do as first select woman. So she was going to bring it forth at the next Board of Selectmen meeting to talk to them about how they wanted to proceed. But they did have a meeting originally scheduled for tonight, but that's been canceled. So I would assume that it'll be 2 weeks from tonight if they don't, delay that because of the holiday or what have you. But so I mean, it's on the table. I did explain to Catherine in detail. Bill knows, what kind of to really be us kind of serving as kind of the people going out there and soliciting these qualifications and reviewing them and submitting a package back to the Board of Selectmen, because obviously it's their decision. But the intent initially would be to look for somebody who could either a person or a firm that can do this thing where they basically they roll their fee structure into any grants the town might secure. But that's not always the case. But that I know the town at this point doesn't have any money in this year's budget to do it. But it's the type of thing that's, quite frankly, with some of the money that's out there, it's kind of it's a no-brainer to kind of try to run after some of these to at least get some of them for even existing needs that are out there.
Mike, this is Dick.
Yes.
There's a number of firms. I know when we were talking about grants for development of the wagon shed properties with the EDC, there was several organizations that would go forward and work for free with a contingent that they would get paid if and when the grant was awarded.
Right. I actually did get, I did forward to Bill a couple of names that I had received from, and actually a person I know from another regional planning agency that went through the same process, and they actually actively use those people for their development of grant submissions. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people out there. It's, so I mean, I don't think that'd be a problem. It's just a matter of whether the first selectman, board of selectmen want to do that in-house somehow to solicit those qualification statements and RFPs, or whether they want us to kind of help them with that. So
yeah, but I think the issue becomes a little bit moot if it doesn't require any funds to be appropriated. And I seem to recall that the name of the organization has changed, but it's basically the organization that works CDRC or something like that.
CERC, I mean, you call it CEDAS?
Yeah, no, CERC. It was CERC. And the vice president of CERC came to us, and she had offered to help write the grants. And then if we won the grant, then she would get paid.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing we need to be conscious of is, I think CERC has kind of a little niche that they fill in the grant arena. But I know that there's certainly a wide variety of grants that are out there for, I mean, things that, I mean, obviously the Board of Ed does a lot of their things that are in high priority for like the roof and the fuel storage and those things. But there's a lot of other ones that are out there that are smaller time ones. There's actually quite a few private grants, believe it or not. Eversource every so often will throw out a $1,000, $1,500 grant to communities for various things. So I think, I think certainly that all those people might, and maybe if the town wants to go forward, they end up getting a couple different people that have expertise in different arenas, because maybe there's nobody that does it all for everything. But certainly, I think it was something that brought up, like we mentioned the last time, it was brought up at the leadership meeting we had last fall, or yeah, it was last fall already. So it's a high priority in a sense of, to me, I call it a high easy. It's something that's fairly easy to do, and it has a high return, especially for the town trying to defer expenses or help that ledger of its town budget. So, but anyhow, the good news, I think Bill and Catherine are both open to it, and I think it's something that's going to be moved. Is whether they're going to get back and they want us to be involved or not. We'll see. And just as a follow-up on that, which is kind of I did send out really late, just 2 minutes before the meeting started, an email I did receive late this afternoon from the Board of Selectmen's office concerning capital projects request. They've at least got the form out there, and I know that they sent that out to quite a few boards and commissions. But the capital project committee, I guess, is going to be meeting here maybe in the next couple of weeks or so, and they're going to formulate what their schedule is going to be. But that kind of plays into this whole grant thing, because it's with capital projects, kind of the ones I know our Town of Future has kind of been involved with peripherally, and obviously like EDC and others that they have some of them have big price tags, but so you want to have grants to offset any of the local share on those projects. So I mean, I did send out to you. That's something you can take a look at later and start to think if there's anything within the arena of our Town of Future that we want to consider. But there'll be more information to follow on that as well. So, and the only other thing I want to just mention in this section was, again, with Catherine, that she does still have a high degree of interest in some future, kind of our Town or Future kind of stakeholder meetings or leadership meetings, whatever you want to call it. I did have a kind of a conversation with her regarding really the role that POCD has in kind of like strategic planning in a sense, or in kind of the big picture. And I said that, really that's the focus. There's so much that can be done in a positive way for the community to engage people in getting a document that's got, good breathing living and breathing kind of goals and objectives, or objectives and goals and implementation strategies. So I think I said that even if our town or future had a meeting in the future, I wouldn't want it to, as we've all talked about, kind of confuse part of what the interest is out there right now on things going on in town. So, but it was a good conversation. The point again being that she seems to be supportive and really actively wanting to do something. It wasn't like I was engaging her per se and say, hey, what are we going to do? And she really said something that she really wants to look at some point when it's appropriate. So that's kind of my my communication at this point. So sad report, I haven't heard back from Santa Claus. I thought I'd hear from him, having his report to give tonight, but I'll have to wait for another time on that. Anyone else? Any last thoughts on anything? Any questions on kind of what I just threw out there? Okay, then we'll proceed to old business, the POCD and the ID zone updates from information from planning and zoning. I did kind of circle back with Jeff Silversmith as well, and I did receive a communication from him, basically that he appreciated the suggestion, the last one we made, regarding reaching out to all of the lead organizations for each section of the POCD. He indicated that he's going to draft a letter in sometime this month to go out to those agencies to either ask for their full write-up on or ideas that they have, or how they wish to kind of engage any of their stakeholders, really with the intent of obviously reviewing the goals and objectives, and then kind of coming back, reporting back to P&Z on how to what they think should be done as far as any changes to those parts. So so that's moving forward. But like I said, it seems, I think from what I've gathered, that obviously they're in the throes of the looking at the IID zone regulation updates with the moratorium in place. Is a little bit of a time crunch on that. So I think that's kind of where, and Dick can probably fill us in more on that, but there's more of the P&Z's focus right now is on that. So I think we'll just have to wait and see. But I mean, at least there was some positive information feedback that I think that's one of the things. At least there'll be an outreach of sorts to kind of beginning to engage people on that. Yes.
The survey, the new survey that we just got, does that tie in with all this?
The survey is one of the instruments, I guess, the P&Z is using for developing, their, I guess, ultimately rewriting or updating their regs for the IID zone. I think at least I think from my perspective, I think we had talked and I'd forwarded on behalf of our group just about the survey, if they're going to do one, at least make it so that it couldn't be a ballot stuffing kind of routine. And I can report, at least for the Survey Monkey that's used online, it won't let you do more than one, at least from one computer or one email address. It'll only allow you to do one survey. And I don't know. I think they were going to try to do something with any surveys that are left at the library or other places, that they'd be sort of have a number or some kind of I don't know how they're going to do it, but I think they probably may ask for. I haven't seen one of the printed ones, but I'm assuming it's similar and may ask for some kind of identification. Yes, go ahead, Nora. You have to unmute
You're muted,
yourself.
Nora.
There you go.
First
Good.
of all, they're not leaving. The only place that they have paper questionnaires is at town hall, at the town clerk office. And my understanding is that they are numbered so that you cannot photocopy them and put in a lot. I don't know why they think people are going to stuff the ballot, or on which side of the issue they think that would happen. But I would comment that they asked the Conservation Commission to create the questionnaire, and then Mike D'Amato didn't like it and threw it out and substituted his own, which is quite interesting because most people said they didn't want large buildings there during the hearings, but he starts with a 250,000 square foot building and goes up. Which one of these would you prefer? And then way at the bottom, he says, all of them are too big. So the new survey is a little strange, I think, as well. I'll certainly be using the comment section to say a few words about what I really want. But I think part of I don't really know what was wrong with the Conservation Commission questionnaire, why they didn't like it. I think it had some questions about what kinds of businesses people wanted to see. And that's not something that you regulate. So I think they, instead of just striking that question, they threw out the whole thing. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what
I guess it's probably not our group's, it's really planning and zoning's bailiwick, and I think we probably all have our own our own thoughts on the thing. I mean, it's from my perspective, I'm not sure what that survey is ultimately going to be able to do for the planning and zoning as a tool for the regulations. I mean, what do you do with
I filled mine out, and then I wanted to go back and show some of the questions to my husband, but it wouldn't let me.
Right.
It locks everything up.
Right. But anyhow, yeah, we'll just it's a process that'll be planned forward. Obviously, it's a part of the POCD in one sense, but yeah, kind of planning and zoning's thing to work on at this point. So that they have a tight schedule on that. So, like I said, unfortunately, maybe that's taken a lot of the time away from the getting the POC going, because we're almost, it's literally a year away for that POC update to be back to the state. I mean, I think it's April of 2025, but the way time's flying,
But don't we need the survey to be able to do the POCD?
No, not technically, but it's just it's a tool that you can use. But
I think we did it like 10 or more years ago, and that enabled us to do the POCD well.
Right, that was the 2005. So my question about POCD is, a couple months ago, I brought up the issue of whether OTOF could sponsor community gatherings where folks could discuss what they would like to see as the future of our town. And you said you were going to talk to Jeff about that. Has anything come from that?
Well, again, his response to that suggestion, and the one about each group having a kind of taking a leadership role and maybe having a one section a month being done. He didn't come out and say specifically. He said he's gathering all that information and he's going to be sending out something here in December, he said, to all the boards, commissions of people and talk about it. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think, he didn't say no, he didn't say yes. I'm not sure that I don't have a good answer for you, truthfully. I mean, I think I basically paraphrased what his response was before, that he's going to send out a letter and he's, he thinks it's a good idea to get all the groups involved, but whether he's going to planning on having he wants each of those groups to hold their own separate public informational meeting. But I mean, P&Z still has to have a foot in that, in a sense, I believe, for, to be more legitimate. And as even if we were there ourselves kind of helping each group do that, P&Z would still have to have representation and still have their kind of sponsorship of that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the thing, from my perspective, that, that's important here. I think it's important that planning and zoning, has to have the leadership of the thing. Okay. They have to have somebody who's really, from their perspective, running the show, so to speak, kind of like the chairperson or the lead, of this process. They certainly can begin to delegate and have people involved in gathering information, but they have to have basically had an oversight of all that stuff. So, if we help with that, like that's what we talked about. He hasn't said no to that. He hasn't said yes to that. And so I guess we're waiting. Unless, Dick, do you have any updates on that?
Well, I said it about 5 different ways at the last meeting. The very first thing that needs to be done is Jeff needs to find somebody who will serve as the chairperson pulling this together. And so far he's resisted that. I think he's more content with letting Mike D'Amato take the lead on that. And that's really not appropriate. We get into a lot of problems when we let NECOG take too much of a lead on it the last time. And we ended up having to override a lot of the things that NECOG put in. It's the towns, it's not a consultant's document. So I'll be bringing this up at the next meeting. The other thing that I've also brought up is somewhat of a dangerous precedent we seem to be putting forth, is that everyone seems to think that they may or may not have a vote on what regulations should be or what the POCD should be. And it's not something that will ever come up for a vote. That's not how the process works. You elect members to the Planning and Zoning Commission, or you appoint people to work on the POCD, or you have people that volunteer to help write the regulations. When those regulations are done, you have a public hearing. People can comment on those regulations or on the POCD. But it's not something that goes for a town-wide vote on what people want or don't want. And I think with these surveys and things like this, we're potentially building the expectations a lot higher than the realities is going to really be.
Thanks, Dick. Yeah, those are good points. Yeah, I mean, I remain hopeful. I think in at least my conversations with Jeff, I think he's working towards it. Like I said, they're just trying to keep all the balls up in the air at the same point here. So I remain hopeful that that there'll be, in light of the interest, and it's appropriate and it's a good thing to have so much interest in the community. Tap into that, and so I think there's interest on all. The more interest on there is out there, I think the more input you have, and I think that's what this document's supposed to be. I mean, to me, like I said, repeat myself here, POCD really becomes the town's business plan of sorts, or strategic plan, whatever you want to call it. I mean, because you're putting in all that effort, you're getting all that input, it really, hopefully, it is a reflection of the community's, interest, direction, hopefully as a majority of sorts. And I think it's a worthwhile document to really put a lot of effort into. So we'll see. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. It's on my list to Santa. That's why I was hoping he'd report tonight to give us an update on that.
My point is that I think it is dangerous to build expectations that might be beyond what can really be done, because the POCD, mixing apples and oranges here, there's 2 things going on. We're talking about the POCD. The format for the POCD is kind of laid out. It's by state statute, and really the goal of this committee that would work on it is to go and look at the one that was done in 2015 and update it and revise it, but it's still going to have the same basic structure. You'll have a section on conservation, a section on historical society, section on economic development, et cetera, et cetera. And and then usually someone takes the lead on each one of those sections and organizes community input, or in many cases input from in the Conservation Commission. They each worked with Loretta to help write that section for the POCD. It was then edited by NECOG at the time. At this point, it'll be Mike Diamato's group, since he's going to take the role of NECOG this time through. But it all really begins with whoever leads the individual sections, and then it's got to be someone that kind of takes the reins to pull all these things together. When we were working on it the last time, we were having meetings, if not every week, but every other week. And there would be, 3 and 4 hour meetings. And, we were lucky we had one young fella from NECOG that helped with a lot of the mechanics. But and we also had some good volunteers. But there's just is an awful lot of physical work that has to be done to put all these words on paper.
Right.
But
Keeping my fingers crossed. So that's kind of. Oh, go ahead.
Could I just make a quick comment? I think that if people are educated and if expectations are handled appropriately, then I don't think that the townspeople are going to expect that every word they say is going to be adopted in the POCD. I think people are reasonable. I think they understand that a suggestion is one thing and a regulation is a completely different thing. So I would like to be more positive about input from the community. At one of the recent, I think it was the second last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, Jeff discussed the importance of input of various different types, a survey, meetings, all kinds of things. And so he seems to me to be quite in favor of this. And I think with our mission, that it's part of our role to make sure that this happens.
Well, for our town or future, it's not our rule, but I mean, we can, we can be asked to provide some, I guess you could say, like guidance, but what sort of I'm looking for, facilitation, I guess is the best way to, if they need us for meetings. But, to that point, I'll jump ahead and just throw out while we're talking POCD that, we as our town or future members should look at the POCD, the current one, and look at all those sections, probably a dozen and a half or so where our town or futures is mentioned, and look at it. And even beyond that, look where our town or future may have some input into some of those goals and objectives of those sections. So I mean, that's kind of our homework assignment, because, like I said, if they start this thing up later in January, February, we need to be ready to provide our input as well, because it hopefully it will, and it's important. I agree, Nora, that I'm not trying to discount that Jeff or anybody else is saying that they don't want input. I mean, it's just the opposite. I think to Dick's point, like clarify me, I think like he said too, is that the important part is you get all this information and how do you boil it down to actually what gets written and put into the POCD. That's the trick of it all, the magic that has to come in. But you need somebody to do that, and then when you have, especially when you have input that's in conflict with each other, how do you write that to a final whatever? Because ultimately, it will be put into final words. The PO's planning and zoning members will have their input on the words that are used or whatever's written up, and then it goes to public hearing, and there may be input there where they go back, change their mind. But ultimately, somebody's got to boil all that stuff down. I think that's what Dick's been saying. You need somebody to grab the horns, because, like I said, we were on it, and we had a few other people, and there was a lot of work, a lot of time, and it wasn't easy. And ultimately, even some of the stuff that we had put up and written, like I know stuff that I personally had written, that we submitted it, and it never came back into the document or was rewritten or whatever. So that's the hard part. But Dick's working.
Mike, I think it's important that we differentiate. You've got these two things going on at the same time.
I'm not talking about the IAZ. I'm not talking about the write-up.
I know. Well, the survey that's gone out is dealing with exit 72.
Correct.
And there is no survey as of yet for the POCD.
But there may be.
Well, there's
one that was drafted, that conservation did, I think, was drafting. I know because I talked with Loretta, was drafting one for the POC itself. but then they went ahead and they drafted up something that went out for this Exit 72 update. So yeah, there's two different things, but the process in one sense is the same. You get survey information, you get all this information. How do you boil it down and put it into words for something that's going to ultimately be in the document, either as a regulation or as in the POCD? So
But if 90% of the people feel one way, shouldn't that sway?
it's up to planning and zoning. It's
I thought it was supposed to reflect the wishes of the people.
They don't do a referendum on these things. It's really that, the state statute is pretty clear on, at least on the POC side, things you got to include. And then, it's up to ultimately planning and zoning will vote to adopt plan of conservation development, and they'll vote to adopt any changes to any IID zone regulations as well. So,
but understand the two are very different.
Right.
The POCD is a long-range planning document. It's going to last for another 10 years. It's because they are updated every 10 years. The question of Exit 72 came up as a result of this moratorium and to revisit what is in the regulations. There, again, you have a starting point. There's an existing regulation that is already written for the Exit 72 area. You don't completely throw that away and start over again, because that is in the current law. But you can get people's input and thoughts on that and go back. Like, I'll take the extreme. Let's say we get back the survey results and everyone wants to turn the area around Exit 72 into a park. That's not something that's going to fly too well. Nora, you're shaking
That's
your
not
head.
in the survey.
No, but
turning it into a park isn't part of the survey.
No,
It's simply how big a building do you want? Anyway, we can't resolve that at this meeting.
Yeah, it's not really our bailiwick per se, but so anyhow, so let's move on to some exciting news. Nora, maybe you want to take 4B and talk about what's going on there.
Yeah. Well, Friday everybody got their citizen, and hopefully everyone saw the ad for ashfordctoutdoors.org. And also on Friday, Mike put it up on the OTOF Facebook page and then on the Ashford community page. And we got quite a few likes on Facebook, and we got a few comments, and everybody was very positive about it, and that was great. But then I looked at the statistics from the website, and we had 155 new people look at it in the last month, which so probably 5 times it was me in the last month looking at how it looks, after I would publish it and say, how does it look? But even if we only had 100 or 125 new people, that's in my mind, that's significant. So I'm pretty excited about it. And I walked another leg today, so I put up another section under hikes. I've got 3 more legs to go before that's finished.
Good
We
job.
haven't gotten any input on changes or suggestions, but I'll keep monitoring for that. So I will mention this. There was a minor expense, and that was to purchase the domain name, $10. And that will have to be renewed every year. When I presented this to the Parks and Recs group, one guy said, well, you should get a grant for that. And I said, for what? And he was, I think, envisioning having it be connected, which we are still going to do. It's still got to go on the town homepage or somewhere in the town website. And Mike, I think you should probably be the lead person on that, because people know who you are. It's going to get linked to the state, and I've got to get back in touch with Bob Ignatowicz, because he's our tourism person. So the state has a tourism website that it'll go on. going to contact the Last Green Valley. They have a website, and Ashford has a page, and it looks, right now, there's not much there. I think there's like the distillery and one or two other things. So we need to build that up a little bit. But those are places. I'm going to write an article for neighbors so that it'll be in print. I'm going to print the website to give to the library, so they'll have a paper copy for people who don't use the internet. If anybody has any other ideas about where this can be linked to, how it can be advertised, let me know.
When Cheryl Baker was working for the town, she was also the point of contact for all the website activity. And we'd had a website that was put up for the EDC, and we worked with MadCom. That's the right name of it, Mike. MadCom was the
Yes, there was that. They're no longer doing anything. I
Okay.
think they're not in business or whatever.
Oh, well, but what we did is we folded everything in to the same town website. So I don't know who's keeping up the town website these days. Do we have a
I'll find out. I think it's I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, but the issue of domain names and hosting and all that sort of stuff should be piggyback on what the town is doing. You know, that's a lot
Well,
cleaner.
this is totally separate. This is a free Google site. And so the only expense is the domain name. I don't think that there should be any expense for advertising or anything like that. So for the time being, at least, I'm quite happy to fund the $10 a year, but we need to make sure that there's continuity. This is why I set it up as a separate Gmail account. So it's got its own email address and the site is its own, and that can get passed on to anybody when the time comes that I don't want to do this anymore. I don't see that in the next couple of years, but.
So no, thanks again. I think to me, you know, if you talk with Sherry York, their recreation and all, if it's a staff person and they put it into the recreation budget, I mean, they can afford probably $10, I think. Then at least you have somebody who has it on the radar and can be, you know, because like you said, at least it'll be kind of built into the fabric of that, the staff or the town organization like that. And I think that's how you can get it to continue on, you know, or the rec commission that puts it in, or the rec commission puts it in their budget, and it's kind of like a fee, membership fee that they have. So that group does it. But you probably, I would think talking with Sherry York, she could.
Okay.
That'd probably
be a good
idea. To me, because it's more recreation based, you know.
Does Google have any security suite tools that are available to use on the website? The reason I mention that is that I was involved in a website that was for the Republican Town Committee, and we had a hosting group called Reclaim Hosting that was handling the management of that, and we ended up getting hit like crazy with all sorts of overseas, you know, I don't know what, I'm not sure the right word is, but we were getting like thousands and thousands and thousands of hits that just locked up the website totally. And we ended up buying a software that was Defender software that blocked all those things. So I don't know, I'm not familiar with what Google has or doesn't have, but I would think they would have to have something like that, because the potential for bad actors to find something like a little website like that and shut it down pretty high.
Okay, I got it. I'll ask about that. I'm not the tech person on this. Margie Roy is, and I'll ask her what she knows about security.
Good.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts on this item? Thanks again. Appreciate it. And if you haven't gone and looked at the site, look at it. I actually had my father, who's 91 and a half. He took a look at it the other day, and he was actually very impressed with it. He actually scrolled through it, and he was, oh, wow, look at this. He started reading some of it about this and that. So he was very familiar with a few of them. So he was very impressed. So there you go. That's one of your
Good.
155 hits. My father. Okay, project updates. I don't have anything really at this point on that. Anybody else have anything you want to discuss
Do
on
we
it?
have any projects? I don't know of any projects, so.
Well, I mean, our town of future had kind of been bird dog and maybe even with EDC, like some things related to the road stuff, I'll call it the road safety audit for 44 and 74, but don't have any updates on that. And I mean, that's something truthfully between this capital projects and also if you get somebody in there with a grant writer, those are some things that could begin to take some further action, I think. I think that's what those really need, is somebody to kind of kick that can a little bit.
Yeah, I would suggest that the road safety activity, since so much has already been done on it, that be put to the top of the list for the for the grant applications.
Yeah, again, the only qualifier there that I'll mention again is that the town of Ashford can take the lead and could, but to be at some cost to the town. But ultimately, because we're dealing with state roads, it's a DOT that still has to be the one that kind of really initiates or supports it, or else it doesn't go any place. And really, truthfully, I'm going to be honest, it should be their money that's being spent on this, not the local town of Ashford's tax dollars going towards it. But I think maybe, that's something maybe Catherine, when she clears her desk of some other projects and things, and there's been talk about re-engaging the state representatives on this as well to see whether they can help with that as well. So
yeah, we've got a new state representative since we got divided up with Tolland and Willington.
Right, so, Jeff Gordon there, right? So
he's the state senator.
State senator, right?
A few new projects. Okay, well, one of them is it's a project that we've worked on in the past that needs a little work next to the Wooden Spoon. It's the old abandoned gas station / auto repair. It's looking in pretty bad shape. We tried painting it once, but the top of it, which should be white, needs to be repainted. It's all like turning black. That's one thing. And I don't know if there are any updates. This was mentioned before, across from the fire department, the house that burned down, the antique historic house that what used to be the Hungarian school back over 100 years ago. Is any updates on that?
Well, that's really the Board of Selectmen. That kind of kick back and forth, but it's the Board of Selectmen have to deal with from a blight perspective, whatever. So it's really not. I mean, we did forward something, a concern to the for Selectmen. I will kind of report from the EDC has done the same, requesting something to be done. So hopefully we'll see something. Hopefully 2024 will be the year that something happens there. Because there's a few of them around.
That's for the fire, but what about for the other? We hadn't picked that as a project, but what about that as a potential future project?
Which one?
Next to the Wooden Spoon.
I would, that I'm the one that kind of engaged with the owners of that, Gibbs Oil, through their broker, and we'll see. I mean, there may be something happening there. I'm not quite sure yet, but we'll see. I mean, what it ended up being is a bunch of volunteers went out there. I think you were out there too, Maureen, right? Weren't you out there? And Ray, myself.
I was too.
Oh, you were. Yeah, we had Mr. Funk. We had Charlie, and Deb Gag, and a bunch of us. I mean, we were all out there doing it. So it basically was us volunteers going and doing all the elbow work, So we'll see.
With permission, and it increased the value of the property. When it looked good, but now it's starting to not look as good.
Yeah, I hear you.
Well,
It's already been almost 10,
the goal
10
is
years.
to eventually, Gwen, is to get it sold, something developed there, and tear down the facility. That was just to remove an eyesore as you're driving through the busiest intersection in town.
Right, it was a stopgap measure. but a lot of years have gone by and it could use a little updating to facilitate that potential purchase.
We'll see. Hopefully 2024 is the year that something happens there.
So does that gas station have underground tanks or have they been removed?
No, everything outside the building's been remediated, and then it's gotten clearance from deep. And I don't think I'm not sure EPA was involved, but they've got all their paperwork. It's a clean site from everything on the outside.
Yeah, the only real impediment for development there is the property is physically not very big, and it was big enough for a gas station, and there's been talk of doing something like putting a subway in or something like that. I'd rather doubt it would be another gas station,
No.
because you've got two in town already. But
Mhm.
some sort of a fast food or sort of place like a Subway was, I think that was talked about at one point in time, Mike, wasn't it?
No, they had somebody who was going to buy and do that, and they didn't think they were getting enough for the property, and they turned down the offer. So
Yeah.
Does anyone know what the value, what they're asking for that property?
they're asking $100,000 for it. It's listed for $100,000.
Because I've been looking at the thing and thinking it would make a beautiful outlet for the Ashford Arts Council. It could be a place where they would display their art. It could be open on weekends, perhaps weekends only. 100,000 is not a very big investment for something like that.
Well, you get
Seems to me.
you got the application for capital projects. They could always put in for a 100,000 for the property, but it's going to probably cost you 300,000 to knock things down. I mean, not 300 knocked down, but 50,000.
Well, what's it like? What's it like inside? Could you not use it
No,
to
I don't
display
think
art
so.
in there?
I don't think
No.
so. It's not conditioned. I mean, they've had lifts in there, a couple lifts, so it's not a,
It's an old gas station.
yeah,
So they still have the lifts inside?
I believe the lifts were removed, but I don't know. I don't know for 100%.
Mm.
So it's not something you're going to
Is it-
buy. And I don't, unless somebody's very creative.
Well, that's what the Arts Council's all about, right?
Yeah, I thought they were looking at
Um,
the property there across from Knowlton Hall.
That's pretty tiny.
Well, this
Isn't that
place
building's,
is
what, the post office?
the old post office. Yeah, this building's just small. It's about the same size.
Mhm.
But anyhow,
Mm.
if that somebody has a vision and some creative thoughts, capital projects could be the way to go. And find a grant for it. You never know. Okay, any other, like I said, the POCD. Okay, I'm sorry, we're still on project updates. Anybody have any other project updates? No. New membership recruitment. I don't think anybody's.
I put on the Ashford CT Outdoors about us. I put, we are looking for new members from the community.
That's
After
good.
I explain what OTOF is.
Yeah.
But I think we have to keep putting up little things like that so people feel like, I mean, what I actually wrote on that website is, let me find it real quick here. I explained our town, our future. Here's what I wrote. This website was created by residents of Ashford for residents of Ashford and for everyone who wants to share our bountiful outdoors. We invite you to visit our town. Created in 2015, Our Town, Our Future is a committee of volunteers appointed by the Ashford Board of Selectmen. Part of our mission is to implement projects that are beneficial to the town. We welcome new members from the community. Visit us on Facebook, and I put a link to our Facebook page. And then I say, to make input about this website, contact us at the email address ashfordctoutdoors@gmail.com.
Good. Okay, any other new business anybody has? I didn't have anything I put down here. And we talked about the POCD again. I'll just reiterate look at the POCD and the things that our town or future is involved with, and begin to develop any comments you have on that and for the new update. We don't have anybody from the public here, I don't see. Any input for the next agenda? No? And any other general comments? Other than wish you and all, you and your families, a happy, healthy, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, all that. Let's hope that 2024 brings some peace wherever there are any human beings. I'd say that. Let's just hope that we as a species can figure it out one of these days. So we can at least here in Ashford do our little part on this little piece of the planet and do the best we can to be good and nice to each other and make it the nicest, best place it can be. That's what I say. So keep smiling.
That's great.
And
So you too.
yes, and with a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I
Motion.
move we adjourn.
Okay, very good at 7:50. You take care. Keep smiling, everybody.
Take care.
Yep.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.